We are live.
We
I
are
do
live.
believe we are streaming.
That's what the little things say here that we are
Is
live.
that what you see there? Let me just check.
I'm checking Facebook as well. Hello,
I
everyone.
am.
If we're live, great to see you here. Come join us. Invite your friends. Oh, I see us. We are live, 20 some seconds into being live on Facebook and YouTube.
Yay. Well, good morning, although it's actually afternoon where you are, isn't it?
It is 12:02.
Just got there. How are you? What's been
I
going on in your life recently?
I'm good. I'm good. I don't know if you're talking to all the people or just me. Yeah, I'm good. I'm really great. I just attended an event. We can talk more about that. And I know you did. And I got to see you and meet you in person
Yes,
and give you a hug. And we had some fun together. Yeah. So, yeah, it's been good. I'm doing really good. How are you? You just
I'm
traveled.
doing I'm doing well. I'm actually, despite a harrowing experience getting home on Sunday, I am so out of whack with what day it is. I think that comes from the traveling, but I love flying to the East Coast because when I get back, and I actually was really surprised how fast I acclimatized to East Coast time.
Oh,
And I've learned that when you get on the plane, if you set your watch, although my watch and my phone, they set themselves automatically, but if you immediately get yourself into your destination time zone and don't do any what time is it at home, it helps to eliminate the jet lag. So I went to bed at my normal clock time, which would have been 3 hours early when I got there, and I was actually waking up at 5:30 in the morning, which is my standard wake up time, which meant that I
wow.
had an opportunity to go out and do my morning walk because I was a little bit on the concern side that I wouldn't be able to do that. But yes, I got some nice fresh Atlantic breezes and
Awesome.
some fresh
Did you
air
get
in
to the
my
beach?
lungs.
Did you get to the beach?
I am so disappointed about Miami and the beaches.
Next time you come, I'm taking you to the beach.
I love walking on the beach. And given how close I was to the ocean, it is so inaccessible. There was maybe a 200-yard segment where you could actually walk a path right on the ocean. And I was staying in Brickell in Miami. I guess that's the financial district. So there was just this very short little piece, and beyond that, you're on a sidewalk, and bless you, there are mammoth skyscrapers. I don't think I've ever seen such mammoth skyscrapers before. I was staying on floor 15 in one of these things. The swimming pool was on level 14. I don't actually like heights. So when I looked out of my window or stood on the balcony, I thought it was fabulous because all I could see was the swimming pool one layer below, and I could literally have jumped over the balcony and jumped right into the swimming pool. Now,
Wow.
this building in the elevator had 43 floors.
Wow.
I'm like, oh my gosh. But they're in between the closest sidewalk and the ocean, and it seemed to me there's very few opportunities to actually.
Yeah, you need to go in Dade County. That's true. They've built a lot along the ocean, and so it gets harder to get there. There are certain beaches you can get to. I grew up in Broward County, which is just north of Dade County, north of Miami, and of course back in the day you could get to the beaches in Miami. I remember going down there, but I grew up in Hollywood, and so Hollywood has a they don't call it a boardwalk because they're not stealing from Jersey, but it's a broad walk and it's really nice because the ocean's there, the sand, and then this broad walk, and then the buildings with the restaurants and stuff. So you get to walk right along the ocean, and they've kept that. You know, Margaritaville is there, and there are a couple. hotels that are a little bit bigger there, but not certainly not 43 floors. I think they're probably around 10 or
Right.
12, and they're trying to keep it still a lot of mom and pop places there. So it's still kind of old fashioned and nice to go down there.
I
The
did
next
get up
time you
to
come,
Hollywood Beach.
did
Yes,
you?
I
Oh,
did.
good.
I wound up going, is it North Hollywood Beach Park?
Yes, yes.
And I walked south, I guess,
Yep.
in the ocean. That is one of my most joyful things, to get my feet in the water and actually walk in the ocean. I couldn't figure out if the tide was coming in or coming out. It was right at the top of the beach. It could have
Nice.
been either way. It might
Yeah.
actually have just been turning, but yeah, that walking on the sand, squelching in the wet sand.
Yeah. Nice. Oh, I'm so glad you got to do that again,
So
because
I
that's
did
what we're
get
here
to do
talking
that.
about today, right? Joy. What brings you joy?
Yes, doing joyful things, and how essential it is to our well-being to consistently and regularly engage in joyful activities. So, what is your most joyful thing to do?
You're asking me?
I'm asking you. And if
Okay. So,
anybody who's listening, pop in the chat wherever you are, if you're on Facebook or on YouTube, what is your most joyful thing to do?
yeah, so I'm going to answer that in a second. I just want to kind of encourage everybody, if you're watching live or if you watch a replay, come back in and tell us these things, because that's why Sarah and I are doing this, is to engage with you and start talking about this thing called meaning of life. Like, what does our life mean to us? And it's different for every single person. And what brings us joy is different for every person. So, I mean, really, what brings me the most joy is being with my family, and I get to do that next week. I'm going to Missouri to see my granddaughter's graduating, so that will be joyful. Yeah, anytime I get to spend with family, whether it's my kids, my grandkids, my great grandson, and another one soon, it's all fun. And I also don't get to do as much of that as I used to, because, they've moved on. My kids are adults, and they got their own lives, and my grandkids are growing into adults and they've got their own lives. And so it's like, well, then I have to get in here, because for so long my life was about my family and my work. And so now, what brings Kathy joy? And probably a couple things, but the most joy, I think, is really doing is spending time with people, is connecting with people. I was at an event this past Saturday, and of all the things, there were some great speakers, great tips, great strategies, but it was the connections. It was really having those conversations with people, meeting, seeing old friends, meeting new people. All of that is what really brings me joy, is connecting with people. And I also got to do that with you, Sarah, on
Yes, we
Thursday,
did.
and we can talk about on Wednesday last week, so we can talk more about that. But it really is about the connections and the relationships. I heard a woman this morning say, we were talking about legacy, and she said for her, legacy is the depth of her relationships.
Hmm.
So important.
That is important. I want to shout out to Janet right now. Janet is watching on Facebook. Hi, Janet. Janet has actually been on my mind a lot recently, because she has been working on Sunshine Cove, or Visit to Sunshine Cove, which is one of our big block of the month quilts. And Janet started working on this way back in 2020 and was doing great. And she came to our Zoom calls and asked for help with the quilting, and she mastered it. It was a delight to see that. And then she struck a problem and stuffed everything in a drawer, got it out, couldn't figure it, stuck it back in the drawer. A few weeks ago now, Janet popped into our Facebook group and said, "Help, I want to get going in this." And she has just been bringing me so much joy. She's been doing a daily reckoning on her progress. And Janet, I just want to tell you out loud, I am so proud of you. I am just thoroughly enjoying seeing the progress, and seeing the boo-boos. That there's an errant butterfly. That this particular block has four butterflies, one in each corner, and one of the butterflies started flying in the wrong direction. Um, but the joy of seeing this, and the joy of the community jumping in, with
Yeah.
support. What you said, yeah, crazy butterfly. What you said about the, the connecting with people, bringing joy, that for sure is something very important. Yes.
Yeah. So I was just getting, I want to like look at some of the comments as well when I can. Yeah, the connections with people. And if I may, can I talk about last Wednesday a little bit?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's
So do you want to share the lead in of how we got to last Wednesday?
yes. So after our last, and I actually pulled up the email after our last, our first going live together in January, I received an email not until March, and the email was from this person called Kathy Mealer. And it said, I tried to sign up on your website. I can't figure out how to do that. Can someone help me? I'm very interested in bringing creativity into my life by trying something new. Recently, your designs have popped up as something I want to explore. I have no idea how to get started. I do not own a quilting machine. I do have a small basic sewing machine. I used to sew a lot over 40 years ago. I would like some guidance on how to try this out to see if it's the right creative outlet for me. And I read that and I'm like, are there two Kathy Mealers in the world, or is the one that I know sassing me?
I
So
sent
I
it from
sent
a
you
different
a
email.
message.
That's why you were confused.
Yeah, I sent you a text message. I'm like, are you the Kathy Mealer that just sent me that email? And she's like, yes. So I actually, this was absolutely fabulous because one of my goals in life is to figure out how to reach people who want to be creative and are longing for a creative outlet that they can put their heart and soul into, and they just don't know that machine embroidery and quilting exists. So we got on the Zoom call because that's what you do these days, right? And we figured out that you live in Florida. I know Lisa Once Upon a Quilt, which is in Fort Lauderdale, and my thought process was, how close is that to you? And all things being considered, living in this, having two people in the same state, there could actually be hundreds of miles between you. But it turns out there was what, 20 to 30 miles between you,
Yeah.
if that. And and so we reached out to Lisa and said, hey, any chance Kathy can come down and spend some time on an embroidery machine and you can show her how to work so she can stitch up one of these hearts because she's interested in figuring out if it works or if it's something that she'd like to pursue. So then, completely separately from that, I get an invitation from Shannon, who I worked with to create Mel's Practical Joy, this quilt back here. And she's like, hey, Sarah, I'm having an event in Miami and I'm wondering if you'd like to come. And I'm like, that would be so cool. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to Miami at the end of April. Kathy's, we're trying to figure out how to get her to Once Upon a Quilt. And I said to you and to Lisa, it's like, why don't I come and show you how to do it? Because I'm going to be there anyway. And then it's like, well, why don't we just invite a whole bunch of people to come down? If I'm coming down and teaching you how to do it, why don't we just bring a room full of people together? So that's exactly what we did. Wednesday was the day I flew out a day early, so that I could spend the time with you and a dozen other people in this room, and we all got together and made Awakened Hearts. And I thought it was fabulous. It's the first time I have traveled to teach a class since 2017.
Wow.
And all of the quilts that I took with me have been made since then. And so it's the first time ever that these quilts have been outside of my house.
There was lots of firsts last week,
So
right?
first, um, yes, I had a fabulous time. It was so nice to be in a room full of people, many of whom I've met on Facebook and a couple that I've met in Zoom calls, and actually to be able to hug people and hug you real live and in person. That was just one
Yeah.
of the best parts
It
of the
was
trip
it
out
was
there.
it was really magical and definitely brought my heart joy. And I'm going to share it with you in a minute what I created. And I really didn't have any. I mean, I used to sew, so I'm sort of a basic sewer, and I just haven't done it in a long time, and I wasn't sure what this was about and how it would go. And I'm open to trying new experiences that challenge my mind and my body and my feelings. Going into a new environment. And so it really and sometimes trusting that space is something I believe we all, I don't like to say should, but really need to do from time to time to really challenge
Mm,
ourselves and experience something different and see, is that for me? Because we don't know. We can't just think about something and think and decide if it's for me. Sometimes we have to experience it. And so I went and I really had a great time. So I'm first of all, I met you, Sarah. I met Lisa, who thank you for opening up her store, Once Upon a Quilt. Actually, I used to live about 10, 15 minutes from there. It's a little bit further for me now, but I did know where it was. One of the restaurants I really like is across the street from it. So I get there and everybody's bringing in their machines. I used to do scrapbooking, so it kind of reminded me of that when people just brought in all their stuff, and they're bringing in their machines and all their things and they're setting up. And I'm like, I have nothing. I don't have anything. Thank you, Sarah, for bringing some supplies for me. And so the other thing, sometimes that just divine intervention where something just happens, that by happenstance. So another lady that I
mhm.
got to meet there, Wendy Ryan, thank you, Wendy, was there. She didn't bring her machine. She wanted to watch. She bought the pattern and yet she just wanted to kind of see how it went. I think she didn't want to, drag her machine there. She got to be my partner and support me in doing this thing that I've never done before. So she was a little new on that machine, and the two of us figured it out together. Yes, we had some machine issues and some challenges, and that's part of it. And in the end, I got to create this beautiful heart. So this is what I created that day. Isn't that gorgeous? So let me
It,
show you what else. It's got this, I don't remember, what is this called? Minky?
yes,
Minky.
Minky. It's
Yes, it's
it's
real
um
soft.
it's just so soft and cuddly.
It has a zipper. So look at inside. Isn't that nice? And then probably my favorite thing, this is the medium size. And so I would like to go back. I'm going to talk to Lisa about making the small and the bigger one. And look at this. Inside here is a pocket. And let me tell you what it says inside. Never, what does it say? Never stop dreaming?
Uh-huh.
Never Stop Dreaming is right inside here. So that, I mean, I just love this. And I've put it on Facebook and shared. I've had a lot of comments on it and it was fun and I enjoyed it. Now, am I going to do machine quilting? Well, I don't have a machine. So that's a first step and I'm thinking about it and I'm going to decide whether that's for me. I have a few other creative projects that I'm doing in my life right now. And maybe this will be for me in the future because I love, again, all those quilts you brought, some of those things. I just have so many ideas because my thing right now in life is all about legacy.
Mm.
The truth about legacy, a lot of times we think that legacy is something we leave behind. Well, it is, but really, the life you're living today is your legacy tomorrow. And it's really about the life you're living today. So I want to play full out for whatever time I've got here and enjoy it and have some fun and try new things. So thank you, Sarah and Lisa, for making this happen and making it such a fun afternoon.
It was so much fun, and as you said, there were a handful of technical issues on the machines, but everybody got through that. I want to have a big shout out for Sally at Once Upon a Quilt. She put all of the kits together, which
Yes.
made it super easy because everybody had the same materials that they were working with. And quite frankly, cutting applique shapes in class is one of the most time consuming things that where everything that can go wrong will go wrong. So to be able to start out with a package of pieces all cut to size was, we could really get into the creative aspects of learning how this process works.
Yeah. And I
And
also want to give a shout out to all the people that came. I don't remember all their names. They were all so helpful. If you were busy with someone else tried to help. Like everybody was helping everybody, and that was what was really cool. Because sometimes you go to groups and maybe people aren't as help. Everybody, they were letting us borrow things from them. It just was really a
mhm.
beautiful community.
I think that is the nature. And I just saw Judy is here. Judy, hello. Nice to see you. Um, I think that is the nature of quilters. And I've especially noticed this in our community. If I've had one live event since 2017, and that was when I invited people to come to me, and we did a retreat in 2022 after COVID. And as you said, if somebody's not got something, then somebody else was like, hey, have some of mine. And I think that, part of the quilting community, I think a lot of the people that are drawn to quilting and machine embroidery, they are so generous with their time, with their supplies and the materials, with their love and encouragement. I think we just have such a generous community. And I
And I
love
want
that.
to, yes, yes, you do. Yes, I really believe that. And that's one of the things that's attracting me to it. The other thing I want to mention, because when I will say, that I'm being a little sexist around what I think about quilting. You think that it's women, and it is a lot of women, and yet there was a man there that was quilting, and he has his own
Yep.
machine, and he's doing quilting. And I was really George is his name, right?
George.
And I
Yep.
was, and
Hey,
I
George,
had a
if
brief,
you're listening.
yes, thank you, George, and I had a brief conversation with him and asked him how he got into quilting. And it was so interesting. He used to work for NASA, and when he retired, he got this patch, and he wanted to figure out how he could put that patch into something to remember it. And he got into quilting. He still hasn't done anything with the patch, but he's doing quilts, and so I just love it. I thought it was really cool.
Yep.
So it's not
There
just
there
for
aren't
women.
there aren't too many men, but the men that do get into quilting, they jump in all arms and legs, and they are right in there.
Yeah.
And they're good people, and it's fun to have them in the community because they see through different lenses some of the time.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Very, very interesting. Yeah. So I'm definitely, it's definitely something on my bucket list that I'm considering. And thank you
Yay!
again for that. Yeah.
You are so welcome. It was so much fun. And it as you say, it just all came together. It's almost like this one little thing happened, as one little email which led to a conversation, and then serendipitously there was another, I don't know if I said that word right, but there's another conversation, and it just all melded together into such a joyful experience.
This weekend when I was at Unleash Your Superpower event in Delray Beach, that's an event I've spoken at for the last 3 years, and it actually was our book launch for our new book, Impact Entrepreneurs. It's on Amazon if you're interested in it. What I wanted to share with you is that she talked a lot about the snowball effect. We know that there's
Mm,
snowflakes, and then a few snowflakes get together, and then boom, 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 and how quickly that can go. And that's what I see as you're talking about this. I happened to just be looking at your Facebook page, and I saw those hearts, and then I went to your website and I started looking around, and then I sent you an email, and then you contacted Lisa, and then you got invited down here. And so the snowball effect was really amazing. And look at how it impacted all the people that got to come together in community last Wednesday and create something really beautiful and magical.
yes. I am a big proponent of hands-on creativity. If I can get my hands on fabric and thread, I am in my happy space. I'm in my joyful space. I have a bit of a story to share here. Um, I'm a business owner. In the beginning, it was me and my embroidery machine. And then it was me and my two embroidery machines. And my girls were little. They were learning to sew, and they would hang out with me. One of my big things, if you like, when I got into this business was I had two requirements. Number one, it needed to allow me to spend time with my kids. They were 7 and 3 at the time when I started, and it was super important to me that whatever I did to earn a living, which is why I started the business, I had to have time to be with my kids, to go to all of their school things. As a single mom, they were the most important thing in my life. The other thing was I I came out of the corporate world. I was a software engineer. I have a PhD in theoretical computer science. I was so nerdy, that whole thing. And when I had the kids, it's like, if you're going to send me back into that kind of world, you may as well shoot me right now. Um, it was so important to me that I found a way to earn a living that allowed me to be with my kids, but also that nurtured my soul.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think nurturing of souls equates to doing something joyful. And in the beginning, for the longest time, I've been doing this for coming up on my 15th anniversary, actually. In the beginning, I was doing everything, but I had my hands on the fabric and the thread, and I was doing all of the stitching as well as all of the designing, as well as all of the business stuff that goes around it. And interestingly enough, as the business evolved and grew, it's like, okay, I need to get some help here if I'm going to stay sane. And what actually happened was the easiest piece to have somebody else do was actually the stitching.
Mm.
And I realized last year, in the summer of last year, I was like, I haven't actually had my hands on a project from beginning to end for several years.
Wow.
Sure, I've been filming the videos, but in the whole scheme of things, and I've had my hands on fabric and thread to do the videos. I will say that I find being in front of the camera somewhat stressful. If you want to make me procrastinate, then tell me you're going to put me in front of a camera. Um, anyway, last year, I realized that I am giving the most joyful part of my business to somebody else to do. In the meantime, I am shutting down and my energy is just collapsing in on me. And so last year, I actually created a project from beginning to the end. I did all of the cutting out. I did all of the ironing. I hadn't ironed fabric in goodness knows how long because somebody else could do it faster than I could, or somebody else could do it whilst I was writing instructions, right? But from the beginning, I didn't tell the team what I was doing. They just knew I'm working on a project. So everything, ironing the fabric, cutting it, preparing all of the applique shapes. Whilst I'm doing this, I'm writing the instructions so that I've got something to follow. Doing all of the stitching, every single bit of the stitching. And oh my gosh, I needed that. I really needed to get my hands back onto into the fabric and the thread and creating a finished project that I can say I did every single little bit of that project. And that brought me huge amounts of joy.
That first of all, that's awesome. I want to acknowledge you because, to even share that story, can feel a little challenging here on video. You're putting it out there in the world. And it also is you being true to you, like true to your heart. That's this thing I call it purpose, like knowing why you're here. And just, I mean, I don't know if you know what your purpose is, but to me, your purpose is to bring joy through hands-on creativity. And when you're not doing that for yourself, because that's part of who you are, like you got to find a way to get back into that. And you did that. So that's really, really awesome. I know that when I think about my business, there's pieces of it that I'm already looking at that I don't, not my thing, like I love creating an impact. I love helping people see their possibilities and really know what their value is. And I like this connection. I like to talk to people. I like to, help people transform through having conversations and diving deeper and doing exercises. Social media, that's another thing. And so I also like to write. And so there's things I like to write. I realize I don't really totally enjoy writing the social media copy. And yet it's a necessary thing to get my word out there. So I'm continuing to do it, but I know that there's an offer on the table for someone who can help me when I'm ready to turn that over. And it's going to be soon that I'm going to turn that over. And that person also knows me and how I speak. So it'll be really great, probably be even better than me. And so again, it's knowing those things that we can turn over, that we can get help, and yet also what brings us joy. So I love that. And I know that you just shared with us about your joy, but you started out asking me what's the most joyful thing in my life. And so I want to ask that of you, Sarah. What brings you the most joy in your life?
Hanging out with my kids and seeing them do the amazing things that they're doing in the
Yeah.
world. And I have to say, I think I have two of the most amazing kids on the planet. Not that I'm biased in any way, shape, or form. Um, so that and getting my hands on fabric and thread and doing creative things. Now, I was sharing with you earlier that I've actually found something else recently that has bringing me a huge amount of joy. So, as a business owner, I'm always trying to get my head in the right space. I just saw a comment from Jan. She says the fear of making mistakes stops a lot of us in our tracks, I think, especially if it's something out of your comfort zone. I
Yes.
absolutely agree with that. And good morning, Sue. And so nice to see you here. Um, I, this fear of making mistakes, there's so much, if you'll excuse the expression, crap going around in our heads. And I came across a thing called neurographics. And I've been practicing this. I started out with their initial workshop, and then I went on to their bigger course called the Wealth Codes. And the reason that I love this is because, let me show you, it involves a piece of paper and a pen and some colored pencils. So I am rewiring my brain through drawing what they call mindful lines. And there's a fair bunch of research behind it, but for anybody who is interested in changing the way you think, getting rid of some of those negative patterns and replacing them, I've found that this
Wow.
is bringing me a huge amount of joy. Um, this one here is actually a
Oh,
gratitude. Um,
nice.
and you can kind of see the flames. It's almost like there's flames, and there's always the lines going across the drawing. The circles are resources. They think of them in terms of solutions that are popping. And I love this particular drawing because it's like there's these little bubbles in the background, and it's almost like, when you're training your brain to be grateful and drawing that gratitude on a piece of paper, and then you can see these little bubbles of resources popping up, which is kind of what happened when we were figuring out getting together in Florida, right?
Yeah.
um Having a picked up two there, having a spiral, um you know which one was this one? This was looking at resources. What resources would I need to grow my business, and having that spiral going on. And then
I love that.
they kind of the wealth course actually brings it into a final, it kind of combining a bunch of different techniques. And this is my tree of desires. I'm looking at the back. I've got it written on here, but this is bringing me so much joy because I've done workshops where I've sat in classrooms and I've talked to people, and I've been on Zoom calls and I've talked to people, but this is allowing me to get that creative element and bring it onto a piece of paper with something that I can see. I'm a super visual person, and I'm thinking that a lot of quilters are also super visual people. So if there's anybody who's wanting to get rid of some of the crappy stuff that goes on in the mind, I actually highly recommend this. I have a link to share with you if you are interested in finding out some more. So I'm going to pop that in the chat here. I will tell you it's an affiliate link. I believe in this. I've had so much fun with this, and I've noticed that things are changing. Actually, I think our whole situation coming together in Florida with you and Lisa and Kathy, that actually started after I did my first neurographics drawing.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm going to check out that link. I'm going to just you put it in the chat, right? I'll get it off
Yes,
there later.
yes, I
I
popped this in
definitely
the chat,
I
so it
think
should
it's
pop up
so
everywhere.
I'm listening to talk about that. First of all, I love all of what you're creating there and that you're having so much joy with it. And I think that many of us look externally for our answers. And we and I'm not saying that that's bad. Of course that's good. Sometimes we need somebody to filter things through, or we want to get feedback. That's great. And yet, if we don't know what's inside of here first, and so that's a way of
Mm-hmm.
getting really clear, getting clarity in the mud that sometimes is in our brains, and the fears and breaking through those fears and all those things through something like that. So I'm definitely going to check that out. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Sarah.
You're welcome. And what my mind, regardless of pretty much everything, I'm looking at these and thinking, how can I bring this into a quilt? um haven't yet figured that out yet, because they're actually highly personal drawings. One of the things, Oksana is a lady who leads the workshop, and one of the things that she said, or people are asking, can I do a neurographic drawing for someone else? And actually,
Mm,
no, you can't, because it's such a personal process, and it's really interesting. A whole bunch of resistance typically comes up whilst you're doing these drawings, and she has all kinds of different questions you can ask yourself as you're doing it. So there is kind of a psychological element to it, as well as you've got a pen in your hand and you're drawing on paper. You've got the colors, there's the whole visual thing coming together. But you can't do it for somebody else, which is why
right.
when I'm thinking, how can I bring this into a quilt? Free motion quilting is is kind of what I've come to. You could definitely you could definitely create. I would Okay, my brain is firing right now in terms of I could
I love it.
create circles and applicate those. I can create stars, I can create triangles, I can create squares, and I can put those onto a piece of fabric. It's kind of almost like you would do this backwards, because in the neurographic process, you draw all of your lines first, or actually you draw your resources first, your circles, squares, whatever, and then do the neurographic lines through them, and then you add the color last. But I can certainly see how in a more free form world of quilting, we could potentially take this into a quilt, not
Wow.
particularly machine embroidery, because that, um, unless you're digitizing it for yourself, I kind of think that the digitizing part of it, doing it from a digitized point of view, I kind of think that that takes away from the process, but definitely getting free form with cutting out your fabric, even just cutting out with a pair of scissors, not even using a rotary cutter. Um, it's surprisingly interesting how frustrating it is to not be able to draw a perfect circle. So can you imagine trying to cut a perfect circle out of a piece of fabric and it's not going well? And then free motion quilting all of the lines. Now, the really nice thing, or one of the really interesting things, is that these lines are thoughtful and they don't have any precision about them. They're overlapping and intersecting, and it's very organic growth kind of situation.
Yeah, what I'm hearing and you talking about that is it's the willingness and the being able to let go of some of the perfectionist mindset. And I think a lot of us have that. I know a lot of people so, and they have that. And I know I've had that perfectionist mindset. And letting go of perfectionism is key because there really is no thing is perfect. And so, like, again, that's where I hear like they're going a little bit with that neurographics and
Mm-hmm.
getting out of our own patterns, the patterns that don't work for us, that don't serve us anymore. And it's really fascinating. I'm excited to check it out.
Yes, it's part of my morning routine these days to draw some of the simpler algorithms that they call them. And it gets me thinking differently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
I can
then
see you're fired up.
a to spend the Sunday morning like the tree here, this one actually took me about 8 hours
Wow.
across. I think I did it across 2 days, but the joyful element of saying, you know what, I absolutely deserve to sit and do this joyful activity that I know is rewiring my brain in a really good way.
Yeah. It's like giving
Sometimes,
yourself permission.
yes. And I think, a lot of people in the quilting world are not giving themselves permission to be in their sewing room as much as they would want to be. It's like there's always other stuff that needs to be done.
And take it even further out in life. Yes, in the quilting world and in the world in general, I know that people don't give themselves permission to be creative, to do the things they love. They think, I heard this talking about the difference between Americans and Europeans and maybe and many probably many other cultures is that your Americans live to work where
Mm,
Europeans work to live. They definitely have more time. They really honor their needs. You think about, when I visited Italy, they had siesta, like they down the shops, everything closes from like 12 to 3, banks, everything. They
mm,
operate around that you work some and then you have time off and you work some. And here in America, we like work, 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 work. And it's not good for us. And so finding ways to give ourselves permission to be creative, whether it's quilting or sitting and just doodling, it's like finding those ways I think is really important to bring more joy into your life.
yes. When I was doing my PhD way, way, way back in the early 1990s, um, I had an opportunity to go to Aarhus University in Denmark. I had a travel grant to go and work over there for a week. Um, First off, if you go to Denmark and you haven't put together that Danish pastries come from Denmark, I'm here to tell you that Danish pastries come from Denmark. And when you go into a Danish bakery and get a fresh pastry, oh my gosh, it's nothing like anything that you
Oh
might find
man.
anywhere else in the world. Anyway, once it took me till the end of the week to figure that out. But anyway, one of the things that I thought was highly fascinating was the shops are shut on Saturdays and Sundays, with the exception of one, I think it was one Saturday morning every month, the shops would be open. Otherwise, you could not go shopping on the weekend because people were typically going out with their families. They were going
Yes.
out into nature. They were getting outside. They were getting on their bicycles. They were, just doing family joyful things.
Yeah.
They weren't spending their time shopping.
Yeah.
They
And
weren't
yeah,
spending their time
it's
working.
it's really something that I feel like we could learn from other cultures to slow down a little bit, to bring more joy in our lives, bring more creativity. I mean, even I noticed in Italy when that siesta time comes, when they close everything down, the schools too. The kids come home from
Mm,
school and they eat their main meal with their families. I mean, like again, it's just like looking at that. And so, we don't have to, criticize our American culture, and yet we also get to look at our American culture and say, how do I want to change that in my own life? How do I want to bring more of
mm,
that, more allowance, that permission to do what I love and to have joy, to bring joy into my life? Because when
yeah.
you have joy in your life, then you're willing to spread it to other people and share it with other people.
Yes. And when I used to travel way back, let's see, I think I started traveling in 2010, and I was traveling up until 2016 when Heather had her stroke, and then I had a couple of events that I had to push out to 2017. But for all of those times, I would get on a plane and I would fly in at the latest possible time in order to be able to get up and teach the next day. And oftentimes, as soon as the class was finished, they would take me to the airport so I could jump on a plane and come back. Now, I will say I did have the two girls, and they were young, and I wanted to be with them. But looking back on it, I think it's not a joyful experience rushing all over creation. And I think I missed out on so many joyful experiences because I didn't have any time to explore these new places that I was going
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really enjoyed about this particular trip is I figured I could have had the class on Thursday morning because the event that I was going to with Shannon started on Wednesday evening. I think it was 6 o'clock on, no, Thursday evening. Um, so I could easily have done the class on Thursday morning, gone back to the Airbnb I was staying at, gotten ready to jump straight in. But I figured, you know what? I'm going to do this on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give myself some time to get acclimatized, hence the afternoon class instead of the morning class. And then I had most of the day on Thursday to myself, which is when I was able to drive up to Hollywood Beach Park and, actually get my feet wet in the ocean.
That's awesome.
So this concept of slowing down a little bit in order to allow the joy to flow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
I
actually,
have a dear
this
friend
book
who
here,
always, yeah, that's beautiful.
this was my early morning creative drawing when I was actually in Miami.
Oh, that's
Uh,
awesome. I have a dear friend that always talks about slow down to rev up, Nina Obear. And she also talks about hashtag what if it's better. So when you take that time to slow down a little bit and see what's there for you in life, we get to experience life in a more joyful way. And I know you always talk about peace, and that's one of my things as well. Like what I want more in my life is I do want more peace, more love, more joy, more abundance. And so just being
mhm,
mindful of what brings you peace. And you say that I'm kind of looking at your words here, but you can't have peace without balance. And balance is essential for peace, really. And so how do you create that balance in your life of having more joy and more creativity and more fun and be really mindful? That's my tip of today, is to really pause and think about that and be mindful of what's bringing you joy and what you want more of in your life to bring you that joy and that peace.
mhm. I think if I was going to leave with one tip for today, it would be schedule some time on your calendar. Actually, put it as an appointment on your calendar to go do whatever it is that brings you joy. So for my community, that might be making sure that you get into your sewing room this week or today or every day, whether it's for 15 minutes or whether you can chunk out a couple of hours or even a whole day, but schedule time so that you get to go do something that is joyful and nourishes your soul and helps you to be a happy human being.
I love that. Make a joy appointment with yourself. I love that.
Yes,
Yeah, very cool, Sarah. Thank you.
fabulous. Okay. Anything else that you would like to share with everybody today? I noticed that you put your new book, Impact Entrepreneurs. You've got a link on Amazon. Awesome. So
Yes.
everybody
Yep.
can check that out.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah, I did that, and I'm going to check out, and I'm glad you put on my page as well the neurographics. That's awesome. And yeah, I think this has been really a lot of fun to talk more about joy, and we get to come back here July 30th with a new topic. So put it in your calendar, July 30th, 12 noon ET, 9 Pacific and 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon ET, and come back and join us here on the 5th Tuesday of July for more about meaning of life.
Yep. Pondering the meaning of life and what we can do as a community to support each other in our ponderings.
I love it. I love it.
So
Well,
thank you, Janet. Stuck with us through to the end here. I
yay.
hope I will see you, Janet, on Friday. We have our twice a month Mel's get together. Mel is a machine embroidery lover. She is somebody who loves to get creative with her embroidery machine, making beautiful quilts, spending joyful time in her sewing room. We get together on the first and the third Friday of every month at noon Pacific time. So that would be 3 Eastern time. So Kathy, if you want to join us there, we will be live with the community in the Zoom room, but we also are live on Facebook and on YouTube.
And it's the
And you probably
last Friday of the month?
the first and the third Friday.
First and third. Okay.
First and the third Friday. So
I'm going to write that down.
we have totally unscripted conversation. People bring their questions about projects that they're working on. Now that you have the Awakened Heart collection, you probably are on our email list and will get an
Yes.
invitation to that
Okay,
if you
great.
haven't already done so.
I may check it out. And if I may, I'd like to just say, if you're interested in investigating more about your legacy and living your life full out right now, you can download my Live Full Out guide. You can go to my website, kathymila.com. You can also find information about my upcoming workshop, middle of May, the 16th and 17th, where we design your life legacy. So I'm looking forward to what I'm doing, creatively, what Sarah's doing creatively, and hearing from all of you what's bringing you joy in life, where you're operating in creativity. And yeah, keep messaging us and staying in touch with us. I'm looking forward to being back here in this community July 30th.
Yep, and I'm just putting our website links into the chat, although it came up with something funky when I put yours in. So I'm going to just try that again. kathymila.com.
Yep.
Okay, I'm
Awesome.
putting, I think that's actually the same one as I did before. It just came up with a strange message. Oh, you know what? It was that cookie setting thing. We're good. So
Okay.
if you have
Good.
an embroidery machine and you're listening to this and you want to try out a Meaning of Life Designs thing to stitch, we have a free design for you on our homepage. So download that, enjoy it, and come to our Mel's get together on Friday. Okay,
All right.
until
Sounds great.
July 30th, we will be in touch before then.
Thanks for joining us live and thanks for watching the replay.
Yep. Bye, everyone.